What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Chris Lee, and this is another episode of, you guessed it, Blerd Talk. Now, if you like anything dealing with just comic books, anime, pop culture, music, gaming, animation, anything just surrounding nerdum or blerdum, you're in the right spot. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more episodes to come. Now, with that out the way, this is a very important topic here. So I remember watching maybe a year or so ago where you had Quentin Tarantino, which is one of my favorite directors of all time, by the way. Dust to Dawn. It's just Pulp Fiction. I could go on. I digress. But the point is, he had this interesting interview. I forgot who the interviewer was, but all I know was he was basically saying along the lines that superhero movies has ruined cinema, has ruined the movie or the Hollywood experience. It's oversaturated and everything is superhero this and superhero that, and it leaves no room for really good movies to shine because everybody's going towards that big budget, massive budget, over the top hero film and leaving the other guys and the other directors in the dust. Now, I understand where he's coming from as far as a creator, as a creative. It leaves no room for him for to be creative in that light because I got to compete with likes of like Iron Man and Spider Man and Thor and Batman and Superman, all this other stuff. I get it as a business aspect, but I'm not going to say it's ruining cinema. I'm not going to say it's ruined the movie experience. Like that makes no sense, and I'm going to explain how. So prior to the superhero boom, you did have really good movies. You had great adventurous movies. Like, so all superhero movies, all it did was it just filled in a void. That void was basically action movies, action, high, a dollar explosion action films. The Bad Boys of the world, the iRobots of the world, the Indiana Jones of the world, the Jason Bournes of the world, the Mission Impossibles, and all this big budget, over the top James Bonds. So all this did was fill that void. Now, I'm not saying you weren't getting no James Bonds, you weren't getting no Mission Impossibles, you wouldn't get no Jason Bournes, Bourne Identity films. Not saying that, but what I'm saying is it was a void missing there as far as just the next big wave, right? So for example, the big wave at one point was the Matrix films, right? There was no superhero, but the Matrix films was the closest thing we've gotten to superhero films, and the Matrix films was like iconic. So that's the biggest thing that you had outside of the Indiana Jones, as you know. Now, with that being said, you had different adaptations of superhero movies prior to the MCU or the DCU saga or era. You had the original Fantastic Four that was in the early 90s that no one's seen and no one should see. And then obviously you had, I want to say the 90s, I might be a little earlier, fact check me on that. And then of course you had the Daredevils, you had Ben Affleck Daredevil, you had Elektra, you had the other Fantastic Four that's in the early 2000s. So you had a few different renditions of the Punisher, quite a few different Supermans, quite a few different Batmans. So the more to the story is you had superhero movies before, so it's not like it's something new. It's not like a brand new thing that's taking place and is taking over. It's been a thing. But what's making it different is it's a connecting thread. So it's almost making it like a universe within itself. And no franchise ever prior to MCU has done anything remotely close to that outside of Quentin Tarantino, ironically. So you had a lot of these, or the Dogma films with Jay and Silent Bob, right? They all kind of been part of the same cinematic universe. I want to say Chasing Amy and all that. They all kind of been, so outside of them, this is the only thing you had on the massive scale that was interconnected with other Marvel films that connected to the other ones and made it a big finale. So you had nothing of the sort like that before. So in the Hollywood sense of it all, you did have good movies that came out. You had great movies that came out. But the reality is you haven't had that type of movie that you can pretty much blanket the demographic. You couldn't blanket like the age range from 6 to 86 or whatever it may be. Like you didn't have that film. You know, you had a few Pixar movies, the Incredibles and Finding Dory or Finding Nemo, and you know the you know those films of the world you had. But even then it was more so just for the kids. Like obviously the parents want to take the kids out to go see the new Finding Nemo movie. The parents could care less about who the heck Nemo is. They just know it's a family movie that the kids can enjoy. You know, prior to that, you had movies like Beethoven, you had movies like Dennis the Menace, you had movies like Primal Child, you had movies like Shazam and all these other films, you know, that came out. But again, they was all targeted towards the kids. So the parents is pretty much like, hey, I'm just doing a good gesture to bring you here to see this movie. So you rarely had that movie that the parents enjoy just as much as the kid have equal interest. It's very rare. You know, unless your kid just groomed to be like a Star Wars fan, right? Star Wars is one, right? So that's the closest thing you can get is Star Wars to that. But prior to that, you had no other films that kind of captivated a crowd on a massive scale. Then comes in the MCU. So when you had Iron Man, who was pretty much like the back burner of Marvel, become the face of Marvel. Prior to that, you had a few other attempts. Like I said, you had the Daredevil and the Electros and all that. And then of course you have Sam Raimi's Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. Obviously you have them. So those were big major films. But when those hit the screen, this was a version of Spider-Man that my generation didn't think we would ever see. Like we never would have sat in our class and say, you know what? I want to see a live action Spider-Man. Like that was not a talking point. That was not a thing to discuss because you didn't think it could exist. You didn't think such a thing could happen, right? Because you just thought that was just solely for the kids. Cartoons are solely for the kids. You know, live action renditions of our favorite animations. It's just something that didn't happen. The closest thing you got to that was like Matilda, Madeline. You know, you got different things like that. You got it slips my mind. You know, you got different live action movies that did take place back then, but again, it just wasn't like to this scale. So when you seen stuff like Spider-Man and all them even you had the Supermans and the Batmans, the original Batman Forever, Batman, you know, all of them, and then you had the Superman Returns, and blase. All of them were great films, but for the most part, it was like you didn't go to that movie just as, when you watched the movie, you didn't leave just as excited as you was before you entered. I don't know if that makes any sense. So for example, when you go see, let's say Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman, you was excited because you've seen it, but you weren't excited because, man, that end credit is setting up another great movie to come. So now I'm excited for this movie that they just tease for me. So now the excitement and all that builds up, right? So that's what the MCU created. So therefore it created like a calling card to where it keep you coming back or kept you coming back for more because you knew there was more. Prior to that, you did have obviously, you know, Blade, and if it wasn't for Wesley Snipes' Blade, you would have never had the MCU, the DCU, or any of these cinematic universes would have never took place because Wesley Snipes' Blade was the first MCU or the first Marvel major budget film that was incredibly successful. So much where they did three of the bad boys. And you know, he did such an iconic role, such an iconic performance to where they obviously brought him back in the Deadpool Wolverine movie. Now, one thing I do love about, you know, them doing that, because it is giving him his flowers, because if it wasn't for him, none of this would take place. But the more to the story is, when I saw Blade as a kid, I can't remember how old I was, but when I saw Blade as a kid, I was already an action hero fan. So you have to think about it. From my era, action heroes was our heroes prior to the Supermans and the Spider-Mans and the Batmans. We had, you know, Wesley Snipes, you had Steven Seagal, you had Jean-Claude Van Damme, you had Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, Jackie Chan, you know, Jet Li. You had all these guys, that were action heroes. That, or even for the most part, Eddie Murphy, with the Beverly Hills Cops, film. So Harrison Ford. So you had those action heroes who we looked up to, and it was so big of a thing at the time. Remember The Last Action Hero, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the little boy, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was a great action hero, and somehow they ended up crossing. You got to see the movie. But what I'm saying is that movie is a perfect example or representation of, we didn't have the Spider-Mans and the Batmans to look up to like that. We had those films, but we weren't as excited because they weren't catered towards the younger generation, right? It was just catered, hey, this is Batman, this is Superman. So it wasn't like I wouldn't say kid friendly, but it didn't invite you in like the MCU and the DCU has done. So fast forward, when I go back to watch Blade, I'm watching Blade as an adult now. It's almost as if I'm watching it for the first time, because there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of nuances, and at the time when I originally seen Blade, I didn't know a lot of his lore, a lot of his history. I seen him in like the animated Spider-Man '96 a few times, but going back, knowing what I know now as far as his history and Blade lineage in the Marvel universe, I go back and watch it at a different light, and I appreciate it completely differently. And it's almost like watching it for the first time again. That brings back to my original point, the demographic. You have from maybe age 6 or younger, and then up to as old as possible. So that's why I'm saying I don't think it's the death of anything. I'm thinking it's really bringing a whole demographic and different age demographics all together, from no matter what your religion and your sexual orientation or your age, all that is, it brings you all together because everybody's represented in some form in these movies. So that's why I think it's not the death of cinema. It's not the death of Hollywood. It's actually a rebranding or a rebirth. And it's almost pushing these other films to kind of tighten up a little bit as far as, okay, who are you trying to target? Now, it don't mean every film out there got to be superhero related. Everybody got to have spandex and tights on. But what I'm saying is, you have to create something that not just a family, but anybody from any walk of life can greatly appreciate if you're trying to compete with the box office. Now, if you want to make something to a niche audience, cool, do that. But don't do that and then complain that you don't have the box office numbers that these guys have. They just don't work that way, So I think, for example, like movies now, like Fantastic Four that just recently came out, which is fantastic, by the way, pun intended. That movie kind of captivated a large demographic of people, my generation and younger. And movies like that, they build these, especially the MCU, they build the MCU movies to be family oriented or family movie. That's kind of where they're, and it's like, and that's obviously Disney Disney battery in the back of their backs back there, pushing the family, the family incentive there. Because if you notice, a lot of the MCU movies that's under the Disney umbrella has all been some sort of family, centered, right? You even had Iron Man, who pretty much took on Tom Holland's Spider-Man as a protege, almost like a father figure, because he didn't have one, right? And then of course you had Wakanda with Black Panther, obviously family, even family discrepancies. You even had, I could just go on for days, about the different Marvel films, whatever, with different characters, even with Deadpool, even has some aspect of family as far as why he's doing it. Now, granted, it's not family friendly. Even Deadpool's not family friendly. But the moral to the story is, it's kind of the last Deadpool kind of almost. For example, I give you this perfect example. The last Deadpool, my kids only watched Deadpool 3, which, I let my kids watch it. Sue me. But when they watch the last one, you know what they remember the most? So remember, I want to say, it's NSYNC, ba 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 dun dun dun, that song, right? So now when they hear that song on the radio, they say that's the Deadpool song, right? That's the Deadpool song. They even watching the YouTube videos when they got the music playing in the background. They got people cosplaying as Deadpool, dancing or whatever. The more to the story is, they found a way to connect to the younger generation. My kids are young, but they hear that song, they immediately go Deadpool, right? And that's what I'm saying. I love Deadpool. Obviously, I'm a huge Deadpool fan, so I appreciate Deadpool on a different level than they do. But the moral to the story is we all appreciate Deadpool. So if we go in and watch it, everybody's just as excited as the other, which is why I'm saying these movies are so successful, because they are targeting everyone. Even with Disney animation, with Disney Plus, where you got the animated Spider-Man that's out, they brought back X-Men '96. They brought it back. You feel what I'm saying? They redid the Avengers animation a few different times. They even got Kid Avengers, Kid Spider-Man, Kid all this. So the more to the story is they are trying to how can I put this, sell to the generations and the generations to come to stretch out their longevity. So believe me when I tell you, it's a great marketing strategy, because if you making a movie for a niche audience, so let's say 50 Shades of Grey, my wife would love to see that. If they came out with another 50 Shades of Grey, like a third one, I don't know how many of them there's out now, I don't see one. But if they brought out another one, my wife will be dragging me to the theater to go see it. Now, granted, hint, dragging, I won't have no interest in that film. I will only get interest because I'm taking her. That's it. You know what I mean? Now, it'll be the same scenario if I'm like, quote unquote, dragging her to see a new Marvel film. But it kind of works two ways, because she's a fan of Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan on Black Panther with his shirt off. She's like, me, I'm seeing the fight scene, so I'm like, everybody is enjoying it. More to the story. So no, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's here to stay. I understand what Quentin Tarantino was trying to say. I get where he was going with it, and I understand from a business aspect, it is stepping on your toes. But I mean, the reality is, it really merged action film and family and adventure and sci-fi, broosh, all together. Like you're literally checking the box of every different genre. It's like going to a buffet when you had a choice to go, you either go to a buffet or would you rather go to, I don't know, Ruth's Chris. Yeah, the steaks are greater, the quality is there, it's more care there, the customer service may be top tier. But a buffet, my kids can eat pizza while I can eat chicken, and this person can eat salad, and everybody wins. That's all I'm saying. So hit me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Is superhero movies the end of cinema? Is it the end, or is it rejuvenating? I don't know. You let me know in the comment section, and make sure you like and subscribe for more episodes to come. Peace.